Hello and welcome to Templar Night TV. Now I'm going to discuss today, did the Templars really worship a demon called Baphomet? And if they did, what exactly was this demon? We know from confessions that were extracted under torture between 1307 and 1312 that knights claimed that they worshipped a demonic head or a demonic cat in a couple of instances, and that head is referred to as Baphomet. But what is Baphomet? One theory is that it's a corruption of the word Muhammad. In other words, it's referring to the Prophet Muhammad. But obviously the idea that Muslims could worship an idol called Muhammad is completely un-Islamic, because Muslims do not worship graven images. They do not worship idols in the way that, for example, a Catholic venerates a statue of the saint or a statue of the Virgin Mary. Like the Jews, Muslims do not venerate graven images. But nevertheless, this has kind of persisted, this idea that Baphomet was a corruption of Muhammad. Another theory is that it is a code from what's called the Atbash cipher. I won't go into all the details, but essentially it's referring to the Gnostic concept of wisdom, Sophia, in Greek. So it's a corruption of that word, which ends up with the word Baphomet. There were other arguments at the time from confessions that Baphomet was a head of Jesus Christ, or may even have been the mouldering head of Hugh de Payne, the first Grand Master of the Knights Templar. And it was said that this head spoke to the Templars, that it gave them orders, and that they venerated it at their initiation rituals. But is any of this true? The truth is, of course, we'll never know. But one thing that we are left with is this image of Baphomet. Now, you know the image. It's a kind of hermaphrodite goat which is sitting on a throne with its hand raised in benediction, with kind of esoteric symbols all over it, a flame between its horns. But this image of Baphomet, which is very popular on heavy metal albums, for example, and among Satanists, doesn't date back to the Middle Ages. It actually only dates back to the 19th century. It was created by an ex-Catholic priest turned author and mystic called Eliphas Levi, and he basically drew this image, which has become the iconic image of Baphomet. But that image did not exist in the 1300s. Similar images may have existed, but not that image. What you'll also notice with the common image of Baphomet is that he has one hand raised and the other pointed downwards, and this is an idea of achieving a kind of hermetic balance, so a balance between light and darkness, male and female, human and animal. And Baphomet is not necessarily seen by those who admire him as a kind of evil figure. He is a figure that represents knowledge, insight, true wisdom. At the time of the Knights Templar, the accusations of the worship of a demon were really intended to create the impression that the Knights Templar had never been truly Christian, that they had always been heretical. Remember that the church and state were trying to prove that the Knights Templar were heretics, and they also engaged in kind of pornographic rituals, hence the charge of sodomy as well, which was bound up with the heresy charges. And then mixed into this was this idea of them worshipping a head or some kind of demonic figure called Baphomet. Now, were these rigged charges, were these trumped up charges, or was there some truth to what was being alleged against the Knights Templar? Why don't you tell me? And if you want to know more about the trials of the Knights Templar, then get a hold of my latest book, The Knights Templar History and Mystery. And also, at the end of this year, I'll be producing a book published by Pen and Sword specifically on the trials of the Templars, called Downfall of the Templars. And next year, I'll be bringing out yet another book on the relationship, the alleged relationship between Freemasonry and the Knights Templar. So lots to look forward to, but in the meantime, get your hands on the Knights Templar History and Mystery, because it's a damn good read if I don't say so myself. And as I believe the Knights Templar used to say, non nobis domine.